the law of the jungle. I'm aware of the orchestrated attempts by my opponents to hang the tag of corruption on the necks of my government and myself, despite all the manifest efforts being made to deal with the phenomenon of corruption. I just have one simple answer for them. It will not work. I did not come into public life to enrich myself. So far, every single alleged act of corruption leveled against any of my appointees has been investigated by independent bodies such as SHRAJ, the CID, and in some cases by Parliament itself. From the allegations against the then Minister Designate for Energy at his parliamentary confirmation hearings, to that against the former CEO of BOST, to those against the two Deputy Chiefs of Staff, to the conflict of interest allegations against the Minister for Finance, to the claims of extortion against the Trade and Industry Minister, to allegations of doubling in visa racketeering against the then Deputy Minister for Youth and Sports, the then Director General of the National Sports Authority, who, even though exonerated by the CID, later resigned, and the chairperson of the board of the National Sports Authority, to the allegations of bribery leveled against the Secretary to the Interministerial Committee on Illegal Mining, to the latest involving the suspended acting CEO of the Public Procurement Authority, PPA, and the dismissed CEO of the National Youth Authority. They have all been investigated or are being investigated by the authorized institutions of the state and not by President Akufo-Addo. It is not my job to clear or convict any person accused of wrongdoing or of engaging in acts of corruption. My job is to act on allegations of corruption by referring the issue or issues to the proper investigative agencies for the relevant inquiry and necessary action. So far, 21 officials of the previous administration are standing trial over their involvement in alleged acts of corruption or causing financial loss to the state, amounting collectively to the tune of some 772 million cedis. Their trials are being conducted in the normal manner, with the safeguards that the law affords all accused persons, so that due process is respected. The courts will, at the appropriate moment, deliver their verdicts. I'm expectant that the criminal conduct, if any, of those responsible for the banking crisis, which is undergoing detailed scrutiny, will be brought to justice very soon if prima facie evidence of criminality is found, which, according to my information, is likely. Government is committed to protecting the public purse, and in spite of the recent happenings of the PPA surrounding its suspended acting CEO, 2.75 billion Ghana cedis has been saved for the public exchequer from January 2017 to July 2019 as a result of the PPA reviewing contracts brought before it for approval, either under sole sourcing or restrictive tendering processes.
And that's just a little bit of what the president had to say at the conference of the Ghana Bar Association yesterday. Very interesting thoughts expressed there. And he says that this is an attempt by his opponents to pin him with the tag of corruption, and that it will not work. First of all, I mean, maybe we should start from there. Do you see it as an attempt by the president's opponents, all the people who are associating corruption with this administration? Are they all the president's opponents?
Well, I'm
just asking what you think.
I know, I get it. I get it, but I guess he's coming from a political point of view because people want to score political points, and I think that's the thing that we miss sometimes. But I guess it's easy when you're there to assume that all the dissenting opinions oppose are your opponents, kind of, but they are not necessarily your political opponents. But I mean, I can understand why he wants to defend, you know, either his administration or the things that he has done. So it's just like maybe Vice President saying something, we asking a lot of questions and not hearing anybody respond, and then NDC saying that same thing, and either the Vice President or the communicators quickly responding to the NDC as if the rest of us, you know, don't even exist. So I guess you can look at it in many ways. Does he think that everybody speaking against the corruption and saying that, you know, it's because you can have so many. I guess the other issue is if you have how many of the appointees when he started talking, when he started mentioning all those people and how they've been cleared, not him clearing them, but the institutions clearing them. I thought, wait a minute, but we still have quite a number of people who have had one allegation or the other slapped on them, which is still an issue.
Yeah. Did he mention the air conditioning man?
No, I don't think he did. I didn't hear that specific. And you're talking about the maritime.
Yeah, but I don't know.
The man who is a GRA.
Did anybody launch a probe into what he is alleged to have done? You know, was there any such thing?
I'm not sure. I think it was just the Maritime Authority trying to clarify matters. Yeah, there was a briefing, and
So I mean, that's the thing. He made this claim that every person against whom an allegation has been made has been investigated. But I mean, I just came up with one example of somebody who I certainly can't think of any formal process of investigation that was launched into, you know.
So I think it said has been investigated, or there's an investigation ongoing.
And I'm saying that with this particular example, I can't recall any investigation having started. Of course, I'm happy to be corrected if there is one.
I can't also readily.
I can't think of. But, you know, it's interesting because earlier I talked about how a lack of information doesn't help.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. But beyond that, I think there are also some acts of the president himself that don't help. I don't know if you recall the Meet the Press that the president did at the beginning of 2018, January 2018. That Meet the Press happened at the time the cash for seats issue was being looked into by Parliament. So Parliament had not completed. In fact, I wonder if they had begun. They probably had begun. They had set up the committee and all of that to look into it. And while that was happening, the president had this Meet the Press. And during the Meet the Press, he said he doesn't see the merit of the accusation. And that the awardees, those the expatriates, he has lunch with some of them. They are his friends. He has breakfast and lunch with them. So he doesn't understand how somebody would sell access to him to somebody who already has access to him.
I remember that.
And I mean, so you as the president, if Parliament is looking into a matter and you as the president, you declare that you don't see any wrongdoing on the part of the person who is being looked into or the people who are being looked into. You say you don't see any wrongdoing. How does Parliament find its way to see wrongdoing, if there is any? When you, the leader of government, have said that you don't see it, and Parliament is full of, well, it's populated in majority by the people who are in your party who are hoping for appointments. You understand? There is a direct source of influence of the what's it called? Of the executive on Parliament.
You know, at the time, some people said, well, irrespective, the president could have said that and did say that, but Parliament could still have gone ahead.
Could they really?
But in any case, even if he had not made those statements, are we sure that Parliament was the right institution to bring clarity and finality to the matter? That's
another good question. But that is what was happening. Parliament had taken it upon themselves to look into it. I don't think the president can claim that he ordered Parliament to do it. He, according to our laws, he's not supposed to be able to do that. He can bring a matter for their consideration. But this matter was not brought for Parliament's consideration by the executive. They took it upon themselves to look into the matter. Okay, so he, the president, did he launch any probe into cash for seats? Not that I'm aware of. Okay? He certainly didn't do what he did with Pius Hajide when he asked, and that's the other thing. Okay, so you remember he asked the CID to look into this matter, and then at the NDC Congress, where they picked their party executives in Akufo-Addo, he announced that Pius Hajide had been cleared. Okay.
So that would be the MPP Congress.
Yeah, that's right, NPP, forgive me. By the CID, Pius Hajide had been cleared. So you remember on this year at the press conference of the CID where they said, where Madam Tiwa said, we know where the girls are. I asked her about this investigation into Pius Hajide. I said, it has been announced that Pius Hajide has been cleared. So who committed the crime? What did the CID find? And she told me, and we are going to play that back on social media and perhaps again tomorrow morning because we found the clip.
Okay.
She told me that the CID was asked to simply find out whether Pius Hajide is implicated in the visa fraud or not.
Oh, that's it?
Yes. She said that is what the presidency asked the CID to do. Just find out whether Pius Hajide is implicated or not.
As a deputy sports minister at the time,
was
involved.
So they looked into it and determined that Pius Hajide is not implicated.
So that was the mission.
Yes, and reported that back to the presidency.
So,
okay, that's what the CID said. And
so the mission accomplished then.
Indeed. So
but we didn't care who.
Thank you.
Who did anything wrong?
Thank you, Mamabi. The presidency didn't care. The CID didn't care. All right. And the president is shocked that people call him a clearing agent.
But we're told subsequently that there is a report.
The report would be on whether or not Pius Hajide is, because that's what they were asked to do. So the CID would present a report to the presidency on whether or not.
I think we need a playback of that.
Yes, we do. We do.
It would be interesting.
But in light of this, you must ask yourself, is it a surprise that people are saying the president is a clearing agent?
Well, but in this case,
if
you want to use the clearing agent's tag, then it's the CID that cleared him, it's not the president.
No, it's the president that asked the CID to determine whether Pius Hajide was involved or not. The president didn't ask who is involved. So that means the presidency was not interested in finding out who was involved. They were only interested in finding out whether Pius Hajide was involved or not.
So how about the police CID?
Good question. So then you can ask the CID, why didn't you simply do your job? You know, in addition to finding, and first of all, do you have to wait?
When the follow-up question, they allow follow-up questions?
No, they didn't. They didn't allow follow-up questions. So, yeah, there you go.
Because even if that's the mission, is to find out whether or not that single man was involved in the issue, you would find certain things will come to light with that, that theme that you're going with. And it would be interesting to know.
They allowed follow-up questions, but they didn't allow me to ask a follow-up question on that issue.
Specific issue.
I think I had already asked about 2 or 3 questions
After all, the press conference was not just necessarily about me. About that matter.
Indeed, indeed. And I had already asked about 2 or 3 questions, so that was sort of the last one they permitted me to ask. But yes, so there you go, okay?
I have another question. I mean, are people convinced by what the president said? Would that tag go away simply because of the statement that he made, yesterday? But it will be interesting to also know, because most of it's just a lack of information flowing, isn't it? Because some of the things we actually didn't even know that, okay, this person was being investigated by this body and that's what they did. But that information must be shared. We all must come to the point where we understand how the person, how that was arrived at. We should see the recommendations. We should see what they set out in the first place to do. Just like in this matter where I am getting to know that it was the Deputy Minister of Sports involved in this issue, whether or not he was involved. Like, we should know what was set out, what was achieved, you know, all that. Then everybody will be clear. Then we won't wait for Mr. President to go to a bar conference and announce to us, but we will all be on the same page. You know.
And I mean, I've got to say, in the past, and this is an old trick of government, when they set up a committee to look into something, and when I say old trick of government, I mean the Mahama government did it, the Akufo-Addo government is doing it. when they set up a committee to probe a matter, they use the terms of reference to avoid, if you like, touching on sensitive issues. So former President Mahama did it when they set up the committee to look into Suba. So you remember the accusation against Suba was that they had been paid some 70-something million for no work done, 73 million or something like that, dollars, for no work done, when they were supposed to be monitoring, what's it called, the telcos for tax evasion. So the president said, okay. And it was Mahama Ayariga who announced on Newsfile that the president says, we're going to look into this matter. So the committee was set up. Nobody paid attention to the terms of reference, because the terms of reference were two. One, find out whether the people who signed the deal with Suba had the locus to do so. The person who signed the deal with Suba, whether he had the locus to do so. I think it was the Director General of GRA who had signed that. And two, find out if the contract with Suba can be renegotiated. Nothing about whether they were paid for no work done. Nothing. So the committee sat for weeks, collected money. Suba was represented on the same committee investigating Suba. There were Suba officials on the committee. They finished their investigation and issued a report saying that, well, the person who signed the contract had the locus to do so, and the contract can be renegotiated. The end. So to date, President Mahama can say, I launched a probe into Suba, and the probe gave out its findings. But the terms of reference had nothing to do with the accusation made against Suba. We do it today. Even the cash for seats, and I can't remember the exact wording, so I'm not going to go into it, but I'll find it. And when we talk about this on another date, I'll read the wording of the terms of reference, and you will see how it completely skirts the accusation. So at the end of it, what were we really hoping to find?
Well, there's a last one, the PPA issue that's been referred to two institutions that a lot of people find very credible, and so the outcome of that will be interesting. There's Shraj investigating an aspect of it. There's the special prosecutor also investigating an aspect of it. And in the meantime, the man has been asked to step aside.
Yeah. And you know, even that was not enough for some of the anti-corruption watchers. They felt like others should have also been asked to step aside, like members of the board, like heads of the MMDAs that kept putting this company owned by Ajini Mboatin up for sole sourcing and restricted tender contracts. They feel like all of those people have questions to ask. They should all be looked into. But at the moment, it's Ajini Mboatin who's been...
Because to be fair, I mean, if somebody makes an allegation against you, it doesn't automatically mean that you should go. Because otherwise people would come up with all sorts of things, knowing that the president will ask you to step aside. So well, it has to take some careful thinking. I mean, it has to be a serious decision.
I don't know. I feel, it's my personal feeling, that there is a way it is done internationally. You know, there is a sort of best practice that we could refer to. Well, you know, in other parts of the world.
That side of the world, people would naturally on their own step aside.
They would be asked to if they don't.
Yeah,
you see, so you don't leave it to the person, the accused person, to do the right thing.
But some of them, the moment the thing comes in, and even with this issue of the PPA, Manasseh brought this teaser out. It was out for like about a week or two before the main documentary aired. Some other parts, some person, by just seeing that, because the person already knows the contents, they would just say that I am stepping aside, because there's a lot of things at stake. The president will even put you there in the first place. Yeah.
But so we don't have that culture here. We don't even see why we should resign when we are accused of anything or step aside. But the institutions and the leaders, the appointing authorities, don't see the point of making you step aside just to keep the institution's integrity intact, just to keep the presidency, the appointing authorities' integrity intact, while the thing is looked into. If it's looked into and it's found that you didn't do anything wrong, it is not difficult to put you back in office. It's not difficult.
Let's stay with the subject a while longer, because some people have been speaking about the president's handling of corruption issues in his government. Former Christian Council General Secretary Reverend Covino spoke to ABC News.
Now, corruption fight in Ghana, sometimes when I wake up in the night, deep in the night, I ask myself, are we serious? Do we really mean to fight corruption in this country? What I have seen is like always those in government are corrupt, those in opposition are innocent. When the tables turn, then those who were yesterday in government but today in opposition become angels, innocent. And then the angels who have now become, people in government now are the corrupt people. And as long as people are in government, they are corrupt, because that's what the opposition will want you to believe. And everybody in the minority becomes a saint. And the way we have given political color to corruption fight and corruption in this country, that when somebody is even alleged, quickly you get party faithfuls fighting back in media, coming around, protecting their own. On that basis, I'm asking the question, are we serious? Do we really mean to fight corruption? You see, I would want to see a situation where government will even disown their own. Party members, regional ministers will disown their own, get them to court. That party people would disown their own, that you are corrupt, we know you. But that is what I'm seeing. Whether we have done enough, I doubt. I think that's a question, because corruption in this country is not only the government side. I'm talking about even corruption in communities, traditional, land sale, examination or practices, even corruption in the church, the deceit, the deception in church. So we have a serious problem, but the approach to the corruption fight is what I'm telling you, is that it's between party in government, party in opposition. That's my impression now. See, so we end up leaving greater part of the fight unattended to. Because now when you talk about corruption in Ghana, it's those in government.
So that's Reverend Dr Covino Frimpong, a former Christian Council General Secretary, commenting on this whole talk about corruption. Corruption's been, Kojo, it's been one of the key, I guess, going into the 2016 election, it was obviously one of the things that was high. And it's not surprising that it is still one of the things that we talk about, even in this administration. Yeah.
And the president made that very important point when he said, when he suggested that it will not work. Those who are trying to, he called them his opponents, but those who are trying to pin that label on his government, it will not work. And then he added something important. He said, I did not come into government to enrich myself. Well, I mean, Mr. President, well and good, we can grant you that. And I mean, I trust the president's word. But from what I know of him personally, when he says things, I don't immediately have a reason to doubt him. But you are not the only person in government. Mr. President, can you really say that Ajenim Boateng did not come into government to enrich himself? Soon after he was appointed, he set up a company to do business with government. So can you really say, with any confidence, that Ajenim Boateng did not come into government to enrich himself? Can you say that? Can you say that about any of your other appointees? How well do you know them?
Isn't that why when issues come up, he refers it to authorities, the appropriate quarters? You may not say, okay, you may say, oh, if it goes to Shrash, then that's okay. If it goes to Special Prosecutor, that's okay. If it goes to CID, I have my doubts. But at least he does refer them to appropriate quotas, if you like, for them to, if they end up clearing them, how is that his fault?
No, I'm not saying it's his fault. What I'm saying is that claim he's making that he did not come into government to enrich himself, it means nothing.
Well, he can speak for himself at least.
Well, but nobody, has there been any investigation of corruption against the president himself? I don't know of any. So when he says that about himself, it doesn't address any of the specific corruption issues that have come up regarding his government.
Okay, so this is my understanding, but I kind of understand it this way. I didn't come to enrich myself. If any other person following me has that at the back of their minds, the reason they joined me, I'll hang them. I mean, if you like, they will be exposed. I am not involved. So whatever it is that you hear, it's not because I've asked them, or it's not because they're sharing with me. You get it? So I want
has somebody made that claim?
No. I'm just saying that I'm kind of interpreting what he has said. So listen, this is me. I'm not in anybody's head. I won't know. I am telling you that I didn't come into government to enrich myself. If any other person did, if I get them, I'll hand them over. And if they find anything against them, let the law take its course.
You see, there's something about leadership. There's something about leadership. It must work all the time. When things are going well, you must be the leader. When things are going badly, you must be the leader. Just that perhaps what you would do will differ. So when things are going well and you are the leader, perhaps you want to take advantage of the fact that things are going well to encourage people to keep doing the right thing. When things are going badly as a leader, you want to take advantage of the fact that you are the leader to stop people from doing the wrong thing. And you can't stop something that you are not responsible for. You understand? If it's not your fault, then you can't change it. You get what I'm saying? I can only change the things that fall within my sphere of influence. If it's not within my sphere of influence, then somebody else must change their behavior, not me. So if people think my government is corrupt, and my response is that I am not.
No, I get you, but I don't think it is that simple. He didn't say I am not, so that's it.
He didn't come into government to enrich himself.
I am not. However, the people that you point at, I have referred them, and most of them have been cleared. It doesn't make me a clearing agent, by the way.